people here. I asked some to join. I don't know.
Please start.
So I think I am audible now. I can start now. So good afternoon, friends. As all of you know, that under eco development discussion section of the South Asia, the state of economic development in South Asia discussion series that is being organized under the Impact Policy Research Institute, IMPRI. And a few occasions we have met, and experts from several countries, including Bangladesh, Nepal, India, have already deliberated on several aspects of the development or economic development, social development, environmental issues, Nepal and Sri Lanka also. And there, the role of the government policies have been highlighted and its effectiveness and the loopholes. The purpose of this discussion series is to highlight those policies and how to redesign the government policies in order to mitigate the loopholes, if any, in the policy matters of the development paradigm. So today we are going towards another South Asia country, you know, the Bhutan, and which is in the top of the list of the happiness index in the world. So here in the title also I see that terminology of happiness, and the speaker is the Deependra Pourel. We are happy to welcome Deependra, who is an environmental architect. So the topic on which he will deliberate is the designing built environment for comfort, well-being, and happiness in Bhutan. So as you know, for the carbon footprint, which is well documented, well discussed around in last few years. So as an important bearing on the policy design, not only for the consumption pattern, but the house building pattern, use of the natural resources for the sustainable development and welfare of the people, with the least damage to the environment that can be done. So that is the purpose of the not only of the economists, but the engineers as well. They can contribute a lot in the designing matter. So in that, from that perspective, I think we can learn a lot from Professor Deependra Pourel, who can help us understanding how the design building can help in conservation of the environmental resources or sustainable use of that without compromising the comfort of the people and their happiness. So those can be the less energy utilization, whereas with less energy utilization, those design can help in getting the best out of the material, like the design of the house where the natural light and the wind, everything people can get, the air flow. So that can help in conserving the energy also. So these are the things I think will be there, as I am not expert in that particular line. So I cannot deliberate much on it. So we will be looking forward to hear from you. So while speaking about Mr. Deependra Pourel, he is, as I told in the beginning, by profession he is an architect, environmental design consultant, and a researcher, and also an entrepreneur. So he has multiple talents. He is enthusiastic in developing integrated design development with additional expertise and sustainable consumption and production, building performance evaluation and renewable energy application analysis. So a lot of aspects he deals with. The aspects are the infrastructure design, interior design, landscaping, high performing building, environmental and energy auditing, sustainability, climate change issues, solar energy and its solutions on this. So several international projects in this line he has contributed, and since 2010, as I see. He also presented a large number of articles in the national and international conferences, and also published in the journals of high international repute. He has 12 years of experience in this building design industry and worked, as I mentioned, the foreigners, that foreign projects means European Union funded projects and some multinational companies he is working with. And he also awarded several prestigious awards by the United Nations Environmental Programme UNEP, CIBSE, and the Westminster City Council. So he has a lot of experience within these few years, last almost 10 years, but he acclaimed several things and awards. And also in this today's program with us, we got the assistance of the design studio and IHub. So I welcome them, and it is a welcome move for being associated with this program by both these organizations. So now we invite Mr. Deependra Pourel to take the floor and start his discussion. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Professor Utpal. Yes, thank you so much. It's an honor, actually. I do not say I have all the knowledge when it comes to ensuring that built environment ensures happiness, but then I have been moving on it. Because if you do not be the change, then you cannot expect a change. So that is one of the things that we at Design Studio, we try to embrace new ideas, continuously learn, and then despite being a consultancy firm, we do a lot of research activities. And this has helped us to make a place in the business community as well, as an organization that is always looking forward for growth. With this, I will now share my screen and then, and then show my presentation. So what we do is, I'll first go through the presentation, and if there are any deliberations or anything of that sort, we can always get back after the end of the presentation. So just to again bring it together, I am not an expert on happiness actually, but we are moving towards it, and we believe as designers we have a greater role to play, since we design spaces. It's not just infrastructure, but spaces where people stay, where people live, and then that has to ensure that people can become happy. And I talked about people, because the irony actually is that it is the people actually, the anthropogenic reasons why the CO2 emissions is rising over there. Under different scenarios, if you see, we are already, we have the scientists already claim that we are beyond the 2 degrees that was set as per the Paris Agreement. So there has to be something to decouple actually. The way we are consuming, the way we are using energy, the way we are using resources to get back our old earth. And then as conservationists would say, that give to our children, the younger generation, the same kind of earth that we actually lived in. I think that we have an immense responsibility to ensure the same. And again, we talk about anthropogenic, that is, at an individual level. But then if you see collectively again, our eco footprint actually already exceeds what the earth can actually provide. India would require, it's already 4 times, the emissions are 4 times to what actually the world can cater to. Things like the US is it's again very high. we're very fortunate because in Bhutan, it is a must. It is there are regulations and rules in place and under the royal command of His Majesty the King to maintain 70% of the forest as as forest of the total land available. And we are talking about just 30,000, over 30,000 square meters, and of that also 70% is actually forest, and it's a national mandate, and because of which we are known as the carbon sink country. We're also a very sparsely populated country with just over 7.5 lakh people. But then though you see the country as a very tiny one, the interesting thing with our nation is that we are such situated in the Himalayas that we have got 5 distinct climate categories, and that calls for even more knowledge on how you design buildings, how you design spaces, how is the urban landscape designed such that it responds to the individual climate regions and then creates an environment that is healthy and supports well-being. The concept of gross national happiness was coined by the fourth king of Bhutan. And he said, I quote, GNH is more important than GDP. The understanding of what human needs to make them happy is vital to our society. And that's what we have been moving on, for so long. And that's why I think we are a happy nation, and as Professor Utpal rightly pointed out, yes, we are at the apex of in terms of happiness, and then we are very happy to to be there, and then also to lead in this context. When you talk about GNH, there are the 4 pillars that define GNH. These are sustainable and equitable socio-economic development, conservation of environment, preservation and promotion of culture, and good governance. Architecture has been a very crucial thing when it comes to the preservation and promotion of culture, because we have a unique traditional architecture which is upheld at all times. Any building design that is put up for scrutiny to the agencies has to comply with some minimal given architecture guidelines as a way to promote culture. But my perspective of architecture, I think, transcends beyond that. It is of preservation of culture, but it is also the conservation of environment. How is one building using the resources? It is also about sustainability and ensuring that everybody has right to that infrastructure in place, the right to do businesses, and also ensuring that these projects are support transparency. So I would feel architecture is beyond preservation of and promotion of culture, but extends into the other 4 pillars as well. Let's look at an example here. To the right, you see a building. Yeah, it could be this, or it could be that. Both of these are buildings in Bhutan, right? So it's about architecture is about sustainable use of resources, not only during construction, but after construction, during design process as well. And architecture that is environmentally conscious. Environment is not limited to the flora and the fauna, but also the indoor environment. The people are a part of the environment. We are a part of the environment, and we should always, as a designer, we should always not exclude the people from the environment, because we are a part of it. It has to be traditional, because that is a mandatory mandate as per our national bylaws. And then the contractual is fair and transparent. So all of these things comes in. And as a practitioner for over 12 years, we have been preparing designs, drawing, preparing tender documents. And then, it's more holistic than one sees actually. There are a lot of other companies that come in which people would disregard to ensure that a building, a design, a construction ensures happiness. I have my own definition of why happiness is important, and I say, what is the purpose of life if it cannot be lived happily? Can this not be a purpose of design, a pattern to create spaces that ensures happiness, an environment that balances the need and the wants and gives importance to living than existing? This is, though it is a quote I have of my own, but then I draw my inspiration from the Great Four, where we talk about the need and the wants. We as a human being, we have what choices, we can choose what to use. And that's where, as a designer, we can tell to the client what he can do to make a better built environment. So from, having a very high carbon footprint to having lower is a decision that one can make based on whether they want to have it or they need to have it. So choices matters a lot. And then, well, just like, this is not new, like the COVID hit, and it had and it still has implications on the overall economy and the built environment, with issues like the workforce is lost. We are a tourism-driven country. Now, what do we do about that? With there's skepticism over tourism in the industry. Those who are designing hotels, those who are constructing hotels are like, so they stall the projects. What should they do? There are people who have been they have been unemployed. Now there's a skills mismatch. They do not know what to do next now. Things like that. Construction has been stalled. Procurement of measures has become an issue now. There is unemployment and uncertainty over investments. But thankfully, the government has been working very hard, and there are initiatives and then I'll be only talking about those initiatives that the government has put in place for the built environment, for the construction industry, for the built industry. So under the economic contingency plan, there are two projects that are very strongly highlighted. One is called the Build Bhutan project, and the other is the tourism resilience. Build Bhutan project came up because of the fact that we are very much dependent on workforce from across the border, and we need to build our skilled manforce. So for that reason, the Build Bhutan project came in. And the tourism, because despite the tourism being hit hard, we believe that we can always come back stronger and better after the COVID, and that has been the goal of the current government. Apart and over and above those initiatives that has been under the economic contingency plan, the government also plans to reform the TVET, that's the technical vocational education and training, wherein children can opt to undergo this skill training for blue collar jobs to build minimize the gap that is there in the market right now, and then help the construction industry, because that's where a lot of cash outflows goes from the country. And other is domestic tourism, and these are the initiatives that is being taken at the government level. We as a small firm in Thimphu, we have a role to play. We cannot just wait for the initiatives to come through. So what we focus on is we are looking into to practice to promote health, well-being, and happiness in the built environment, and that has been our motto. It was before the COVID, and it is even stronger now. It's even more important to create better spaces, because we are stuck with the hard reality, and that is we now live in a box. We have been staying indoors much longer than we used to before. And then once in a while we look out of the window, and then it depends what you see. I tried very hard to take out a very bad view, but I couldn't find none in our country. And then so that I could reflect and say that, well, if you see this, how would you feel? But then I was going through all the photos and I was like, come on, everything looks good in here, but that is not the end of it. It It may look good, but is it comfortable? It may be energy efficient, but do you get good sunlight? That's the question we need to ask ourselves now. It is not limited to, having a good view, but there are other things that make somebody happy, that makes somebody feel healthy, and that is light, the access to sunlight, having very good indoor environment. Thermal comfort is very important to ensure that you can feel happiness. There are the intangibles and the tangibles. I want to talk about the tangibles that you can touch on. There are other things that are very subjective, which we cannot. But then, as a designer, our way of looking into ensuring happiness is to design and give spaces to people that's comfortable, it's well lit. Yes, it is energy efficient and stuff like that, sustainable, but not to compromise on the first two. And our philosophy has been to live with nature. That's ecological urbanism. That is a community that's integrated, that uses people to be part of the construction process. Metrics that are being sourced from the locality. So there is community engagement, thereby creating a sense of belongingness to the building, also to the structure that is being built. Appropriateness, science-driven, data-driven. We have to design spaces. Now we cannot just, as a designer of some other time, just say that, well, this looks good and that's it. There is no data to support it. I think we have to use the data, because we are in the data realm right now, and use that to inform design decisions. And the last one is breathing life into building. We believe giving more control to the user. The user should be able to modify the building and its indoor environment to his choice, and not the designer saying otherwise, saying that, well, this is a given, beyond this and that you cannot move. That should not be the case. But then to even arrive at our philosophy and work towards it, we are very fortunate again, because the government has got an enabling framework. We have got regulations in place, codes in place, guidelines, and the drive for energy efficiency, which it's a government mandate, and we are playing by it, so that we ensure, it's a win-win situation for the government as well for an entity like us, whereby we try to create spaces that people can relate to and feel happy. The picture below shows, how it's a rammed earth construction that is being done. You call in the community, you say, today it's in my building, come out and help me. The other day it's in the other building, in your neighborhood. So people come together. It's not like his building is bigger than mine and stuff like that. So there is that community harmony that's being created, because the other is a part of your building as well. And then all of these important things are very important, right? You might, people sometimes ask me when I go and make presentations, they say me, well, Bhutan is a green country. You have got everything green, lush. Why do you worry? And I'm like, well, you have not seen, you are not inside. This is a photo that was taken in 2005, just close by from my office, around 3 kilometers from here. That was in 2005. 14, this is what it is. So we have to consider, we are growing, we are hit with urbanism. So we have to design good spaces that will ensure people are happy and then can enjoy their life. And many at times, people have been designing spaces, buildings as if they are like standalone things. Nothing is there around them, right? But then this is changing, and then I think we need to get this movement even faster, and then make more people aware that it's not an inert plot. There are many things. It's an active thing. There's the sun coming in, there's the wind, there's the vehicle moving past, there's a sound, and then there are some green spaces and some others not. How can we use that to inform design and make better spaces? And that is the goal that we would like to, and then we have been pursuing for this long. And I'll show you an example. This is a very famous building. It's called the Walkie Talkie. It's in London, where I did my master's from. One look at it and you'd say, wow, this is a splendid building. The architect also thought so. Yeah. Because it was a good design. but something was not right. And then came a news which says that the building was going to be so hot. I mean, the reflected heat from the building, because of the curvature that you see, and the azimuth from the south, that the incident heat that got reflected to the ground could actually fry an egg. So there were demonstrations of this being done. And this is something that's happening in the developed countries, like in London. It's an example from London. So we are here in Bhutan, we are there in India, people from Bangladesh, and we are developing nations. But we got to worry. It's going to stuck us. And if you don't do it right now, if you don't learn from the mistakes made from others, then I think we are not doing enough. So our approach has always been, there are 4 things very important: the context, the climate, the user, and the use. I just want to touch on the user here, because as designers, we also need to inform the client and then bring about behavioral change. That is a mandate of a designer as well. It is not just playing to the tunes of the client and saying that, okay, well, you want that, okay, I'll give me extra for that and stuff like that. So that is the kind of thing that we need to bring about, so that our designs are ecologically friendly and are energy efficient as well. So there's a change in recipe that we propose. Anybody would say a good design should have good aesthetics, it should have very good circulation, it should be energy efficient, it should be cost effective, it should be sustainable, and it should have a low carbon footprint. But you say, hey, well, just a minute, yeah, there's something else that makes a better design, and that is access to sunlight, so that you don't fall sick often. In the UK, from my knowledge, access to sunlight is a must to get even design passed. We do not have it here. I think countries like ours, developed nations, should look into if we can frame our regulations, if we can do our town planning to ensure that access to sunlight is ensured daylight, so that we bring down the energy consumption. And also because it is good to work in a daylit condition. And find a thermal comfort. Energy efficiency is one thing, and thermal comfort is another. In a research that I did just 2 years back, it was on a town in Bhutan, in Shillong. I collected data from around 152 buildings. So they were like almost 3,000 something units, of the building. So the total units were like 3,000. And then I was looking at the EPI, the Energy Performance Index, and there were some buildings that had as low as 15 kilowatt hour per meter square per annum, which is like you could get a passive house certificate for that. But my question is, are you being efficient and compromising your thermal comfort, or are you really efficient? So that is a distinct definition that we have to put in. We should not compromise our comfort for reducing our energy bills or for saying that we are energy efficient. We should be within the thermal comfort standards. We should get good daylight, but still be energy efficient, and that is the goal we should work towards. So solar study, basically we talk about shadow that's being cast by the building and the context to arrive at desired distance, like the 4 pictures that will show you here. You might, the one at the top right might say that, yes, you have a huge, built up area. You have got more units, but are the people happy there? Are you getting access to sunlight? Do you want to be capitalist in terms of building, using the entire land to make a huge building, or you want to create spaces which will ensure that people are happy in the design? It's a very uphill task, it's a difficult task. I have a lot of difficult times when I go to my clients and tell them, well, your square footage of the building is going to increase, but your occupiers are going to be very unhappy. Can you do something about it? And they're like, why should I? And then I say, well, charge them a bigger rent, make it smaller, charge them a bigger rent, say this is your, you're creating a good environment. I mean, there has to be a way around it. So it's not only about how big, but how good. And I really love this, what Likov said when, and I quote, architecture is the masterly, correct and magnificent play of volumes brought together in light. With light, we can create forms the shadow can actually create a different entity inside the building design. You know, the different kind of lighting that you use, not only inside, but also on the outside. So we have to be very mindful of the solar. And then the sun rose is a very simple exercise that it takes around just 30 minutes to make a sun rose, and then to have a demonstration and to show students and those who are enthusiastic to just project a light and show how the shadow is going to be at what time of the day. These are very simple things that can be done, which doesn't require any computer simulations also to be run. Daylight. Well, daylight is a little, there are some calculations to be done on in terms of daylight, the window to wall ratio, but also to be mindful that daylight, excessive daylight is also not good. It can cause glare, discomfort, and or disability glare. So daylight, but has to be considered. So when you consider daylight, it's also about the urban scape, because the spaces between the buildings are very important to arrive at the visible sky, so that the window size will be determined by that. So in our country, what we have is for different locations, there are allowable plot coverages, like 45% setback rules, which is a compulsory thing. So it ensures that most buildings are well lit, but may not continue the same. As I said, we are here to urbanism. People are going to be capitalists and say that, well, I don't want to lose any piece of my land. I want to build everything of it, make the most of it, out of it. And we as designers have to be able to say, hey, well, wait a minute here. What are you trying to do? What is the end benefit? Where are you 10 years down the road? I go to my clients and tell them, you're designing a hotel well. Tomorrow, when a better hotel comes, you'll not have any occupancy. Please be mindful of that. When a better house comes in a community, nobody is going to stay in a house. There's so much of construction activity going right now. And it's very important right now to do the right thing. And lastly, thermal comfort, wherein we talk about the heat balance must be the same as that is lost to what is gained, right? So it's all about solar gain, the internal gains, the losses that are there from the fabric, from the ventilation and infiltration. Some just images to get an idea, because I presume that there are some students who will be accessing this presentation, which will help them to be better designers tomorrow, to make a statement in your design and say that, well, yes, we design because we care for the environment. We design because we design better buildings because it's for the people, and we are a part of the environment. So solar gains in terms of the sun coming in, and then we look into the internal gains also from the light, from the kind of equipment that we have in the house, from ourselves. How much are we generating? Whether you're standing, you're sleeping, so depending on the kind of use, the activity that you do, because we are like a machine which is generating 50 watt per meter square of our surface. So we are a machine, which is an incredible thing. The other is the building fabric. So from the walls, from the windows again, that is being lost, from the bridges that are there, and then stuff like that. And lastly, the ventilation, which is the one that is of prime importance in Bhutan, because our buildings have been designed, our ventilation system are not good. So the windows have a lot of leakages in them. And people complain all the time about that. And in my practice, we have our own window designs, which are more airtight. And then we also have developed parametric solutions, algorithm-based parametric designs for the windows, such that we can actually calculate the carbon footprint and also the infiltration losses. Some examples, because I've been talking a lot. We use, this is easy to use to design louvers. If you have to design a louver, well, you have to have a louver, but then what should be the angle of it? This is for a project that I did for a hospital, wherein these louvers can actually be, you can tweak it, as I was telling earlier, that the people have to have the right to change the indoor environment. So you can actually change the louver. You should be able to, make it to the right, to the left, wherever you want to. So those things are things that we have put in. The other is also wherein we look into the urban thermal comfort index of the courtyard, because when you design a courtyard, you have to ensure that people would want to sit in the courtyard. It's not just a courtyard, and you say, well, I have a courtyard. And then let's say you're in the in the cold part of the country, and you have a courtyard on the north, and it's fully shaded from the south. No point, you know. So small things like that. How do you design? How do you say which has to be where? So small things like that matters. And also using our traditional architecture to create the sun shading, or to enable the sun to come in, to make trom walls using our traditional guidelines. Because we are very, as I said, we are very strict traditional guidelines, but we can use it to our advantage to create better buildings, to come up with specifications for construction such that it is traditional, yet it is modern, and it helps to make the indoor environment better. We can use wind directions to determine how the building is to be cooled, how the wind is going to get recirculated to the indoor space and stuff like that. This is also another design that I'm currently working on. So here the client, I mean, I've been very fortunate to get good clients, you know, who understand the importance of building better, with as not only being energy efficient, but also, you know, taking into account the environmental issues of promoting well-being. He's like, no, I don't want to build on that side if there's going to be any shade. And that's what, come on, man, this is the right kind of person I got. So here, the infrastructure was, the shape of the building was based on the analysis that we ran. So there are some scripts that I have developed to run the radiation and the sunlight, our analysis, to say which time of the day people can get sun, which time they do not get. So what time, which rooms should be facing east, which should be facing west, and why? Why should the kitchen be on that side? Thermal mapping, very important, that we as designers can do. The kitchen doesn't have to be on the south side, you know, because it is already heated from the cooking that is being done, the activities in the room, things like that, small stuff that matters. And then you might say that, well, all this looks boring. Can a good design come out? And then this is an example of a good design. I mean, not a good design. I mean, it can look good, you know. After doing all this analysis, the results can actually tell you to have better designs. And this is an example of, after doing analysis and studies like that, still a good design can come up. Many times people question me and say, I mean, it's all theoretical, it is all you know, academic. How can you put it into practice? And that's what we do. We bring this theoretical knowledge into practice and then convert that knowledge and data into designs. Other data that is under construction right now, this is for the UNICEF actually. So it's a blueprint design for the subtropical climate in Bhutan. So I designed for 3 different climatic regions in Bhutan, blueprint designs that will be used for all ECCD centers across Bhutan. So this building is an energy efficient building, has a very low carbon footprint, and then the window area, the arrangement of the rooms were all based on environmental design, like considering the sun, the movement, how the children go from which classroom to which, at what time do they sleep in their sleeping rooms, corresponding to that space is there so that it is warm, you know, things like that. So, and then also we did complete profiling of the loads to ensure that it was energy efficient as well. The window was also, I mean, we use data to design spaces, and I think that's where we as architects should go towards, you know, because we have been, you know, always having the upper hand and saying that, well, this is my design and that's it. The client has to help the client to make decisions. We need to give them data, say them numbers, and say that, well, yes, because of these reasons, it's better to do this, you know. So it has to be supported by data and information. And last, though I talk a lot about simulations and calculations, let's not forget that the best instrument that we have is us. But we have to have that inherent or built quality to be able to go anywhere and assess. Some people have, you know, after many years of assessing buildings and industries, somebody doesn't need the equipment to say whether that is efficient or not efficient. You go there and you know it, because you're using your body, that machine that I talked about a little earlier, which is the most magnificent one, to know whether that the design or the space is efficient, is thermally comfortable or not. And we all have it in us. It's just that we have to go out and then try it out 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and we are there. Yes, and then using the same thing, same concepts, I have also designed, the officer designed some good projects for the government. And that is one of the examples of the project that is there. And with this, I end my presentation. And then I look forward to any questions that you have that I can answer. Thank you.
Unmute, please unmute.
Oh, sorry. Brief but sweet presentation and precise, very nicely with the clear objective in the mind that what do you mean by this environmental friendly architecture, how to design, how it will help so built-in environment, and that gives not only comfort to the people and their well-being, and also happiness in tune with the sustainable environmental. So you have touched upon several aspects of this. Some I could understand as a layman and some I could not. Anyway, so that means what we overall understood, that a building should be designed, if I come for that there should be some aesthetic aspects of it which should be appropriate. And what I think that a good aesthetic building also has some impact on the mindset of the people. If your surrounding within the court or within the room looks pleasant and beautiful, not very hot, not a high light is there, but gentle lights are coming from outside, and some ventilation is there, so not dirtiness, not stench, all these things inside, so no dampness inside the house, all these things are maintained also. All these things are dependent on the design, how you make, and in the direction of the building, whether it's facing east, west, north. That of course depends on the availability of the space, how you have. If you are on the bank of a river and you have to construct compulsorily, so sometimes some of the opportunities one may not have, so you will be compelled to design in that way. But still the engineers have that capability to twist that even by making different shapes, which is also another thing, is that earthquake prone, that has to be taken into account, because Bhutan, Northeast India, Nepal, all these the highly seismic prone zone these are. So that also I think in your design experiment all these things come, that though you have not highlighted here much, but along with the environmental aestheticness, these things also sometimes you have to compromise with some of the aesthetic value in order to gain some seismic resistance, that is earthquake resistance pattern. So that also is there. And definitely building should be energy efficient, so that you can get the good energy. So the locations and the face will be in such a way it is made that it will conserve energy without using much of the electricity or other thing. Also you can get some comfort inside, and the sunlights that you can get, ventilators should be, and of course the carbon footprint that we mentioned, and you also told elaborately there, all these things. And another thing, what I think nowadays it is coming, I heard, I don't know how far it is correct, or this you can elaborate more on this, that is now houses are being designed on the roofs either for the water conservation, that is rainwater harvesting. So that is one thing coming. So because that will also energy efficiency, because if you have to pull underground water or lift underground water, then you need energy. Rather, if you can harvested rainwater and through pipeline you conserve underground, and later on through some filtration you use for even drinking also, not only for washing or bathing. That is also another. Another is that either walls or some portion of the roofs people are using for the what you call solar panels. So that will give you energy, so without consuming much of the space. So that is also incorporated in the, and some places it is being made mandatory in some parts of India also, that especially the rainwater harvesting is now mandatory in southern states. That is there. Then definitely institutional framework and legislation. So all this come into play in that case. And I think also in Bhutan, that is despite having the less per capita income, that in the happiness index at the top, I think some of the religious beliefs also work there, isn't in your consumption pattern. I don't know how. So because your that pattern, because I only have some experience, though every time I take attempt, but I could never visit Thimphu. Only through Manas Sanctuary, I had entered Bhutan around 15 kilometers through Panbang Bridge, that side. And I saw that in December, this winter also, class 5-6 students, the children, they are selling orange and others, vending nearby that Panbang Bridge. I think you know that side. And that market also. Only that is my experience of that Bhutan. I never inside I gone. And building the, so all these things just come to my mind. That's I told it as a layman like that. The other things so you have touched upon, so better the other panelist can speak much more on that and ask question. And only in that chat box I saw one question, that is one friend from Bangladesh who is attending this, Antara, that whether increase in manpower that can be an important aspect for this purpose. So this, okay, she is asking here. So now I think I should open it for the discussion and the panelists. Dr. Simi, can you start with that? And then others, please. I don't know who else others joining. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Deependra, for this wonderful and lovely presentation. It was really, really informative. And thank you, Professor Utpal De, for your comments as well. Much of what you have spoken, even I was left in the thought process, because as a layperson, it is very wonderful to watch how Bhutan is actually making progress and strides towards sustainable environment. And it was just fascinating to watch and listen to Mr. Deependra's presentation. So to begin with, I really loved your definition of how you, you defined what it is actually meaning, what it actually means to be happy. Aesthetically also, when you are designing buildings or the construction that takes place, it needs to make people happy. The way it is appearing, as Professor D also mentioned, the structures. When you spoke about the Build Bhutan plan, so I want to know more about it, whether it is it was after COVID hit, or has it always been there in existence? And what are the other aspects of how uh, how inclusive it is? What are the other characteristics of such a plan? Whether it is long term, what are the various objectives, short, medium, and long term, for this project? Then you have also shown so many or even from your experiences also, there is a lot of creation of public spaces, as the comparative picture that you showed of 2005 and now, that the entire, was it a riverine that was there, or was it a road? I couldn't understand, which was there in the previous photograph and now it's converted into a road or something. So is it a lot, is a lot of construction government driven? And if it is so, how does the government raise funds? What is the there are mass rapid systems or infrastructure, the highways or right of way, which is to be given to the infrastructure projects. How does this factor in when you are creating public spaces? And then when you are talking about the community comes in together to help one another, that harmony is there in that photograph that you showed, that okay, this is my construction going on, people pitch in and their efforts are there. So I'm also very aware that no work in Bhutan is considered to be inferior to the other, whether it is garbage collection or you are at the top helm. So it is very, very, very inspiring in one sense. So what in your experience has been when you are explaining to your clients that you need to make adjustments in the proposed designs, allowing for enough sunlight while also taking care of the nearby units? I know you mentioned one of your clients and you were super happy about it, that you are converging on those points, that okay, this person also is aware of sustainable environment and environmental growth and development. So if you could comment on that. And then you also showed wonderful pictures, colorful, the design that you had presented on for the hospital. So how much does the aspect of colors factor in your activities in terms of energy efficiency? And then after the construction has been done, that okay, not many people abide by the set rules of environmental friendly activities or construction activities. So once the construction has been completed, pulling it down is not always an option, even though they understand that okay, this was not my intention, but now what to do? So what is your advice for such people who are now wanting to move towards it, but they are not able to because of maybe financial constraints, or even the locality doesn't allow for such changes? And my last concern was, what is the percentage of the energy efficient construction in Bhutan? I mean, how much is the energy efficient buildings there? I mean, we are all talking about it and you are working towards it. So how much is it? And is there a plan or proposal from the government to move towards this aspect, that this has to be made compulsory when it is actually talking about happiness index, or moving towards that happiness zone? So if you could comment on these two, but overall, I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you so much for walking us through actually Bhutan virtually.
Shall I do like, I take your questions and then I answer, and then I take right?
Who else are there? Simi, I have no idea, please.
Dr.
Sir,
Arjun?
Yes, I am here, but Simi asked so many questions. Why not?
First respond and then others we can.
Choose to respond, not a problem.
Okay.
No, no, it's okay. I mean, I think the questions are very good actually, because these are things that we come across every day as a designer and as a firm. So I'll just start from those questions that I can recollect. If I miss any, please let me know. And then maybe, because I think I have almost all answers for all the questions. So first of all, the Build Bhutan project that you were referring to is a response to the COVID-19. This came in because, as I said, we are the workforce for construction is it's mostly from across the border. Bhutanese, there are very few Bhutanese who have skilled, who are skilled to do things like bricklaying, plumbing works, and stuff like that. Yeah. So for that reasons, the government said we will extend support to establish specialized firms. A specialized firm can only do one activity. It can be, so you cannot say I am a contractor and do whole building. The firm can say we're a contractor and we do only bricklaying. We do only roofing. We do only plumbing. We do only sanitation. So in that way, we are trying to build our expertise. It might be through trial and error. You might fail, but I think as a government, so that everybody benefits in the long run, we should be willing to fail fast and fail safe, and then recoup, recover. That is very important. And I think that is strategy that the government is taking. But over and above that, the TVET thing, that the technical and vocational education and training program was always there in the government to reform, because we are in dire need of, Bhutanese workforce for the construction industry. There's so much construction activity. The one that I saw it from 2005 to 2014, in less than in a span of 10 years, hundreds of buildings have come up in that area, and it was a paddy field. And in many presentations, I've highlighted and said that, was that a right decision at that time, converting a paddy field into a urban scape, where there are no other options. But I feel that, at that point of time, maybe that was the right thing to do. But now that we are aware of what has happened, how much of the agrarian culture that we had, and then the kind of the growth that we used to have, the paddy and then the cereals growth we used to have, which is not there, because we need pockets of lands that's open as fields, and some pockets of land which is constructed as urban centers, and that harmony has to be there. And the best example is in Paro, actually, in where the airport is, actually, the international airport is. In that region, there is that mix. So there are paddy fields between towns, the main town is there, and you drive just after the main town, and there are paddy fields. And then where there is and the dry land, there are some buildings. So things like that. So that could, I think we also are growing, everybody goes through that phase of learning. And I think I would rather take it as that, though our town planning was built on, based on intelligent urbanism, wherein it was supposed to be, transit friendly, and then ensuring that there is social cohesion, and then political backup. The political backup is very important here again. And then you talked about having spaces like for parking, stuff like that. In Bhutan, there is something called land pooling. That land pooling that came in a long time back when the structure map was being prepared. Under this, what happens is, if I have 50 decimal of land, let's say, the government has the right, and we agreed to give almost 10 to 20% of the land to the government from our land to build the roads, to accommodate the parks. It was a joint discussion that was done, that was agreed by the people also. So that is what you need. Sometimes you need a compelling leader with a vision to say that, well, I know you are losing your land. Who would want to lose your land, But then for the greater benefit, and that land pooling, it was a difficult time that the government went through, but people agreed. And here we are, we have got, my land is taken away, but I've got access to road. I've got access to water. I got parks nearby. So that works well, So that is the way actually you get those greenscapes, the parks and spaces inside the building. Yeah, when it comes to convincing clients, I think as designers, we cannot play to the tunes of the client, is what I always say, because they are not aware, they are not aware, and then we cannot, just because of the lack of awareness, design whatever we want to. We have to share, take the responsibility and say we are trying to design better and give them options. If an option is well thought of, it's supported by data and climate, then definitely anybody would go for it. Just day before yesterday, I'm also doing a bank project in Paro, and we went into lengths into where the waiting area has to be. And finally, I think they considered that it is where the people are going to wait. It is where the sun will hit them the most, where the view is the best, where it's more thermally and sunlit, thermally comfortable and sunlit, without using any mechanical heating or ventilation. That space is where the people should be, people should come as waiting spaces. That should be where the waiting spaces should be. One, why? Because when somebody comes into the building, for that 1 or 2%, you don't want to give in your mechanical ventilation, energy intensive. Yeah. Second, because somebody who comes into a building and feels, wow, this looks perfectly nice and it has got a good environment, he will take that thing back home, and if he designs or builds a building, he's going to say, I was into that building, I would like to have it like that. And that's what we want to do. So more lives of trust. The officers will be there. How many people are going to be in the bank? But the rolling, the people who walk in every time, those are the more important, to make the change. So we can only be the catalyst, but we have to be active and educate the clients. Very important. The color. I think I'm so sorry. I think that that image is actually a simulation image. So what that shows is the radiation analysis because of the shading. It is nothing to do with color. In Bhutan, we are very again strict with the use of colors. A building cannot have color of its choice. I mean, there are some reasons why the color has to, for different reasons, there are different colors actually. Yeah. So you have a set of 5 to 7 colors that you can choose on a building. So no building looks very different, or too stark. And that is a way to say that this is Bhutanese, We all agree to that colors. And then say, well, okay, fine. We go yellow, green, blue, no red, stuff like that, So there must be some religious inclination to that. I do not know. But then architecture is not just about color, but also about that form that you create, the spaces that you create inside the buildings. So I would worry the least about colors, though it's an important thing. But on the interior, there's not an issue. So based on your mood that you want to have, you can always have different kind of colors that you want to on the interiors, So not an issue. On the changes, there are always changes at site, and that's a reality because of budget, because of some decisions that were made. But to me, I have very strong contractual agreements with my clients. So if they make any changes, they have to go through a process of getting it approved by me to get that things done. One. Other is, if a change is inevitable, a design is, they say practicing, they say practicing architects, practicing designers. It is because there can be 100 options. It's just how deep you can go in. How much time can you give to that project? So even if something is done at the site, there's always a way around to make it better, because we can create microclimates, One is the climate that is there, but one is the climate that you create inside. For one of my projects that I'm doing right now, that I have submission tomorrow, we're creating, it's in the ground floor, which is like shielded by, walls on the two sides. So what we're proposing is very huge corridor of up to 5.5 meters wide with plantations along the sides, and then the rooms are there. So what it does is, it is like you're walking not on a corridor or 1.5 meter narrow corridor, but on a road, So that scale, the height, the length, there are things like that matters. It is beyond architecture. Designers have to think beyond just putting rooms, but then create spaces. Very important. And then the call for energy efficient structures in Bhutan. In partnership with an NGO based in India, in Delhi only, called Synerm Asia, we are working, and we have actually completed the guideline for energy auditing of buildings and industries. So the government is really serious about it. There has also been a tender that we participated in with another partner from India, because we're still growing actually. I am not an expert, I don't say, So there is a partner from India, again from Delhi only, for what do you call that, remodeling buildings, one in an alpine region in Bhutan, and one in subtropical region in Bhutan, that's in Thimphu, to make it energy efficient. So there are things happening. It's slow, especially when it comes to private clients. Nobody would want to say we want to make energy efficient and stuff like that. But then and from the government side, yes, I think they have the power, and then they have to show the leadership to show the way so that others can follow. Did I miss anything?
Thank you so much. So before, sir, can I just add 2 more observations, if that is okay? When you are talking about the land pooling, it is so wonderful. It actually reminds me of the whole social contract in political theory. And also it is also mentioned in the Mahabharata about the Raj Dharma, where people are themselves giving up certain amount of whatever they possess for the wider benefit. So the luxury of space is not available in India. So I don't know, this sort of things can happen or not happen, or we can have that have it in India. But for the moment, I think that grass is greener on the other side in terms of wonderful buildings and green spaces. So that was my submission. Thank you again for responding to my questions. Over to you, Professor Day.
So thank you very much for some responses. In the question box also some write-up came that in India we do not have that luxury, because more than 138 crore population, and many of them are working in the informal sector, and they are migrants also. Maybe they have their good homes at villages, but they are working in some other places where they cannot afford with their meager income either to take on rent or to own their own apartment or something of that kind. So here the question is that how these people can avail, or their happinesses, how can you link it? Only it is possible where the population density is less or sparsely populated area. Another thing is that there may be a trade-off. So aesthetic building or all these things, if we make whatever aspects we talked about here or you talked here, so that may need a huge cost of construction. So that may lead to unhappiness if they don't have the ability to afford to that, or entitlement. So that is another thing, isn't? And that thing I was asking about, the not only the institutional aspects, either in Bhutan, these type of things are coming, that I think you are taking into account that what you call earthquake things, no, in your construction. But whether to the, because less solar radiation if you get, if it is on the other side of the hill or mountain, so the construction, so designs they may have for the solar panels and others in the design that will help their for that energy conservation and this and production. So self-sustaining. Suppose in the walls, if you have the solar panels and with some angle 45-degree or something, so maybe whatever energy will be produced, the whole building can run with that itself. So no need of external supply of the electricity, all these things not yet come in your place. I don't know. Is it so?
No, if you had closely looked into the presentation I gave for the UNICEF building,
yeah,
that single story, there are roof panels on the roof, if you notice. So we have been integrating. I have been actively working to bring about that change, integrated design in buildings, so that the cost of construction can go down. Actually, what happens is people would first finish the construction, and then they're like, oh, now I need a solar PV or a solar thermal for my water heating. And then they install. That actually increases the cost of construction. So for a client, it is very important to give them a return on investment as well. To show them what are the options and how to take decisions on the priority metric, based on the priority metrics. So you say there are X, Y, and Z options. Based on the priority metrics, that talks about that, measures it against the kind of input you have to put in and the kind of output that you generate. Yeah. So let's say investment is an input, so you need to have high investment, but the output is also very high. So it is a very likely project. It's good to do it, but you have a high input, but the return investment is low. So it means that it is only for the sake of doing it. It's like a thank you project. I mean interventions. So that's where as designers, I do in every project. We go to the depth of even determining what should be the U value of the internal walls, external walls, on which facade. A building is not like a refrigerator.
Yeah.
It has to be, sealed all the sides with the same insulation. You can always say, well, this is facing south. We need solar gain. Okay, we don't need to worry about the heat losses because the wind is less on this side. And then design accordingly, So the cost of construction will go down based on the depth you want to go into. It is all about how much you want to go. How much time and effort can you put in? Right now, since we are starting with it, I mean, the amount that you get for a project, if you compare with developed nations, it's like nothing. But we have to go there, If you don't start now and wait for something to happen, it never happen. That's why we are moving towards, and we are trying to inform clients and say, well, when you make construction, it might be difficult for you to manage because different walls have got different insulation, But then giving detailed design specifications will help you to reduce your over costs. And that is what we should strive towards. It says garbage in, garbage out in software, when you do simulations. It's same here actually. So if the total thing is not looked into, then you cannot anticipate a good result also. But we have to start somewhere. One time when we were discussing with on the economic stimulus plan also, which I was a member of as an advisory. So I was like, if you don't start now on building energy efficient, we will be nowhere. But if we start now, and because of whatever issues, the learning process, we achieve 50 of what we actually anticipated. At least we are there 50, and then we can build in the next 5 years to be at the 100 what we want to achieve at. But if you don't start now, we are nowhere. Then we are just going back in time. And on the community-based thing, our firm is a strong advocate of using timber in our structures. We have natural resources. Timber is a renewable resource. If it is sourced sustainably, used sustainably, then there's a huge potential for it, So right now in the images also that I showed you, if you remember those 2 images right after the 4 pillars of JNH, it has one with timber traditional elements, the other is in concrete. That is what's going wrong. We cannot just replicate our national values into just whatever that is doable and easy to do. And that is where we go wrong. There were some questions I saw,
And there are differences in the community-based societies building, and another is the individuals, their capabilities and other things. So when individuals separate his own personal, so something differences will be there. Anyway, so the other questions, Dr. Arjun, please give your observation.
Yes, few points I also wanted to add. But firstly, let me congratulate Deependra sir for coming here and presenting his views. Very less of the architect or planners in South Asia are able to raise these points. But I am an economist, but I do study housing, real estate from a very different place. And now I'm also connected with Tongji University in China, their design and construction department. They are also, I'm working with some professors, they are doing this on a very mass scale, using this simulation, like the role of light, heat, sunlight, many things. And that problem was also, coming again and again when you were also suggesting that the whole approach is integrating data with architecture or design, which is so useful, the new data from the new sort of sensors. So, and our subcontinent is also, because you are in Bhutan, so there is cold condition, but the subcontinent is largely, tropical, subtropical. So there is a lot of diversity also. But having said so, we also have in India one of the very big housing program known as Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. It has a rural and urban component, and we have almost made now more than, in fact, sanctioned more than 2-3 crores of 20, 30, 40 millions of houses, and still the rate is going, and India is also urbanizing fast. How do you see that in terms of mass, or the problem of scale India faces largely, to integrate this sort of information, or how students or the practitioner can learn and integrate the software or this information, so that these steps, as you are suggesting that we should really take steps or move towards it, we also strengthen that cause in terms of know-how, how we should look into for built environment, micro environment, also sustainable habitat. But most of the time what we feel that despite having all the push, in practice it is, I would say, not even 10-20% of the construction goes through this phase. What do you think are the bottlenecks? Are they especially pertain to South Asia mostly? Because in London also you showed the example that there are many evolving dimensions coming. So I just wanted to know from that part that how the people of subcontinent can embrace this kind of new changes and how to go there. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. for the wonderful question. Yeah, but that has put me in a fix, I can only say that if you want a change, you have to be the change. I'm doing my part. And I think designers across, not limited to just Southeast Asia but to the entire world, should do their part as well. If everybody, follows this as a guiding stone, as some of the principles that you have to put in design, then collectively you can bring about a change. But we need that kind of, that a unanimous agreement to say that climate change is not a hoax. It is a real thing that's happening. People have the right to live happily. Well-being is more important. It's the most important thing actually. Because if you're not healthy and well, then it's a life of waste. It is about what you prioritize. So to me, I am doing what I can. I would urge designers in India, other parts of the world, to embrace this idea of environmental design principles. Do their part, and then that 10 can turn into 20 and 40 and 50, 60, But if you do not do our part and then we only speculate on what will not happen, then we may not ever reach anywhere. Is my biggest worry. That's why I would like to, that's why I think we all got to do our part. And the other thing that I wanted to, just occurred to me is that we also face, as I said, it's a small country, but the terrain makes it, creates that alpine region in our country. We're not only a cold country, we have very hot places in Bhutan. The one that Professor Utpal mentioned, Panbang, is a hot place. We have got places in Bhutan which range as much as, in India, there's a place in Assam, I think, from sea, where the heaviest rainfall is. That, I don't know.
Cherrapunji.
Cherrapunji. So similar to Cherrapunji, it rains in Gelifu. So there are, we are faced with these things, That's why as a designer, I cannot do copy-paste work. I have to strive. I mean, in the developing nations, we are not paid as much as in the developed nations, but we have to work towards so that we are at par. And then it is also beyond economics sometimes, not just the financial gain that you gain, but the satisfaction of life itself, of having contributed something for the well-being of, the world. Maybe of your 10 projects or 20 projects that you do, maybe 5 will really get good. People will get to see it and then they know what's happening there and they want to take it and then try it out. That's what I want to see, a positivity. many things will fail, that's a way of life. I think it's very important to be very, very optimistic, and I'm full of optimism in that. Thanks.
I like the approach. Anyway, so Arjun, who are other panelists, please?
No, sir, I think, yes, sir has also been speaking for quite, we can wrap. Unless you want to ask few questions, Utpal sir.
It's okay. Here, some in the panel, or no, these are not questions. Other questions I already mentioned that time.
Yes.
So I think this is a very good discussion we had, though many, because it's a specific topic, so we did not have many panelists here. So, and we are all, as I said, that we are all laymen, only on civil engineers and others, so we could have invited some more. So that could be much befitting. Anyway, so there is no end to it. So in future also we can invite and have much more discussions and deliberations on these aspects. And I hope that your Bhutan also maintain that status quo, that conserving the environment and forest, everything, and despite enjoying the happiness with whatever they have, as I said earlier also, that I asked the children that why are you selling, you do not have a school today, that here in Breeze you are selling samosa, all this. No, in vacation, now no school, so we are earning something. Somebody is in class 6, somebody in class 8. So that simplicity also I like, that this reminded my childhood that we also used to do during the festivals, some pakodi and selling, so that some pocket money we can earn something. So and so while learning also is there, do by practice, and in your livelihood, how to earn and spend, not only that in school education. So these are also some way of educations I saw in Bhutan. And that religious aspect I had asked, perhaps you did not address, might be some Buddhist culture, and that is inhibited in their mind. Maybe that inculcate that mindset, that how to become or remain happy with limited resources also. And their community life, how to help others, all this. In every religion it is there, but because it's a homogeneous culture, unlike that of the India. In India, we have hundreds and different diversity, so conflicts of the opinion and many things come in the religious case also, and the societal differences, many heterogeneity of the society structure. So in your case, it is the uniform. Only all are same religion followers, same identical thinking, and that is inculcated from the very childhood. And the school also, in your school syllabus also, some of these things are there. As in Northeast also, some of these aesthetic things and the moral values, that is also inculcated. Everywhere these moral values are there, but it varies depending on the situation and the people who are living there. So they are designing course curriculum, everything. So in Bhutan, I think these things also are there from the very beginning in their mindset. That also have a great impact on it. So thank you very much, Dr. Deependra, for your illuminating lecture. And we learned a lot of the thing, and it is of the bit I say, though I also teach environmental economics and resource economics, and also on housing. I guided PhD, but only on marketing aspect of the housing, and how people prefer which aspect for which why the surrounding things, even the locational values, for that also people like to pay. Whether nearby your house there is a graveyard outside or not, whether the dumping ground is far away or nearby, or through the window you can have a view of the forest. For that also people like to pay more rent. So those things we have analyzed. So that is a difference. So from there also some things we can infer, but not from the constructional aspect or the engineering aspects that we have dealt with. So it is a different things and ideas that we got from you. And also those who participated here in the panelists, and also the IMPRI for giving me opportunity also to moderate your thing, despite having little knowledge in this area. So to Arjun, Simi and their team. So and also your design studio and IHub for being associated with this program. So thank you very much. And we hope for more such discussions in future from your side as well as from the IMPRI side. Thank you very much. So do you want to wind up, Arjun?
No, no, sir.
Pourel, do you want to have the last word?
Anything to say?
Yes.
Mr. Deependra, would you like to have
Then
something?
Yes, Deependra, sir, would you like to just add anything?
Yeah. First of all, I'm not a doctorate here, please. I'm just Deependra. I really echo what Professor Utpal talked about, because that moral value is something that we stick to, but not the religious context. Because I am a Hindu in Bhutan. Bhutan is largely Buddhist, but we have the right to choose your religion in our country also, though very small country. But it's just about, the community that you grow with. What you see is what you learn, what you practice. Sometimes more than the book and the academic knowledge, it is, the society that teaches you a lot of things, like the one selling the oranges on the roads of Panbang. So it is not something that they were meant to do, or they were forced to do, maybe, or maybe they were. But in the process, they did get to learn. And as long as you do not complain, and you feel that, yeah, it's enjoyable, and to sell oranges in my vacation, I get some money for my pocket money and stuff like that, and then it's perfectly fine. Yeah. I mean, that's where we are at. There's nothing like, the only wrong thing is to do wrong.
yeah,
Doing the right thing is not wrong. I think I'll end with that. Thank you so much.
that I told. Yeah, thank you very much. So I think we come to an end.
Yes, sure.
So I declare the session is closed.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
thank you so much, Deependra, sir.
Thank you for joining
Have a
us.
nice day.